I'm Barbara Olsavsky, strategist, data toolmaker, and trainer. Believing that data is a support service means believing that you have to start with a vision of where you want to go, because otherwise, what are you trying to support? But there's a tension. Visions are big picture statements that are usually pretty nebulous. They often don't contain concrete strategies and tactics. So how do you figure out the actionable and measurable steps you can take every day that help you achieve your big picture vision? For many things, I think the answer lies in a mix of clarity, that is, actually having a vision and a sense of your business model, and then reframing and rephrasing. In this video, I demonstrate a way to move from a general monetary target that's part of a vision to actionable and measurable steps you can take and track in places like your calendar, data models, and dashboards. Before I dive in, I want to give a quick disclaimer that this video is for general information purposes only and is not intended as consulting or business advice. To get the strategy and metrics parts in place, you need to define your terms in a way that will help you, or others on your team, think about this part of the vision in a way that helps you set a course and, as needed, correct your course. Let's start with clarity. For this example, we'll set our monetary target at $78,000, which covers overhead and operational costs, and also gives us the take-home pay we want for the year. In a lot of ways, $78,000 is a yes or no type of target. You hit the target or you don't. It's a clear target, but it's nebulous in terms of strategy and metrics. Even knowing how close or far away you are from hitting the target doesn't tell you what to do about it. You need more information, which you can pull from your business model. For this example, let's say you run a service-based business and you charge based on time spent with your clients at a rate of $100 per hour. Let's also say that you plan to work with clients all 52 weeks of the year. Now you have the beginning of a measurable goal. In a given time frame, all 52 weeks of the year, sell your services to clients at a rate of $100 per hour, so that you reach the goal of $78,000 by the end of the year. To make this more actionable, this is where you start reframing and rephrasing the goal. If you do a little math, that is, dividing your $78,000 target for the year by the number of weeks you plan to work in the year, you have a new goal of $1,500 per week. You've just reframed the time frame. That's still a little nebulous, but it's a little more trackable for metrics. It's now a yes or no target per week instead of a yes or no target for the entire year. You'll be able to check every week how you're progressing towards the goal for the year. So you're on the right track, but you'll want to reframe or rephrase again. Going back to how much you charge, that is, $100 per hour, you can take that $1,500 per week and reframe it as 15 hours of billable time. And now you have a new way of talking about this goal that's action-focused. In order to meet your target of $78,000 per year, you need to schedule 15 hours of billable time per calendar week. That's barely even a part-time job's worth of work. It's doable, measurable, and actionable. When looking at your calendar, if you've scheduled more than 15 hours a week, excellent. That will help you buffer for leaner times. If you've scheduled exactly your 15 hours for a week, then you know you're at least on track for your target. If you have not scheduled 15 hours for a week, what can you do to get those hours on the books? You'll need to look to your specific client funnels and tactics for this. Whatever the case, the benefit of thinking in terms of scheduling billable hours, instead of just targeting $78,000 by the end of the year, is that you at least have a starting place for taking action towards that $78,000, instead of just hoping for the best. Now, while data is clues and not facts, and it's impossible to account for all of the variables in any business situation, It can be helpful to use a model, a simplified approximation, while you play around with numbers and consider your options and your targets. Having the vision reframed and rephrased and having a data model in place means that if your goal changes, or the individual parts change, or life happens, you have a starting point for seeing how that might affect the end result and how you might need to course correct as a result. You can adjust your annual target or your rate of pay and see how that impacts how many hours to schedule. And you can extend this model to package service offerings and monthly retainers instead of just hourly rates. I'll caveat that this is a really simplified version of turning vision into insight and action. Business comes in ebbs and flows, and sometimes seasons, which are not accounted for in this preliminary data model. Nor does it account for having a variety of services or products. But this should give you a good starting point for thinking about action and metrics. As you look to your own vision statement and start performing this reframing and rephrasing exercise on the individual components, how do you know if you're on the right track for clarity, reframing, and rephrasing? There's a phrase I like to keep in mind. So what? Now what? So what helps you stay focused on the things that are really important. You should be able to answer this question in the form of, this is important because. And that justifies your time and effort in tracking this part because it is so easy to become data rich and information poor. Now what helps you stay focused on keeping this as actionable as possible. Information is nice to have, but if it doesn't help you figure out if you're on the right track for a goal, then it's interesting trivia, not a business metric. If this is working, can you do more of it? Should you stay the course? If it's not working, can you revise your tactics, or should you just refocus your efforts elsewhere? I'll also caveat that it's easier to apply this reframing and rephrasing process with some parts of your vision than others, and some parts of your vision simply cannot and should not be broken down in this way. If you've never modeled like this before, or you're curious about how I set this one up, check out the link in the video description to get a copy of the preliminary model I used in this video. You can plug in your own numbers and see how they play out. If you would like to talk to me about how you can collect and use your data more strategically, you can connect with me at www.bloudesigns.com. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. Thank you for watching.